for nominees. So if, as you said, anyone strike himself and he need to see his photos at anywhere in the street that to be considered as a nominee, we can amend this. We can amend this by our choice and by our intention and by our votings, that we can choose the better for this place. Another point must be considered in this voting. We have now a very strong and effective movements of the government, and of course it made very great successful contributions all over many fields, like security, like foreign affairs, like maybe many services that can be presented for the people. And on the other hand, in front of this government and in front of this motive government, we must have a very strong legislative power in front of this government, just to be compatible with these activities, and can have a very sensitive review for this government. It will not be suitable to have a very weak legislation body with this government, and of course it will not help anymore for the people to have an ordinary legislative power. So we need some people who have the awareness. We need some people to have the experience, but we must consider also to present all the categories that we said, and that's why it depends upon the awareness of people first.
But when you play only on the awareness of people, you might achieve or score, but at the same time, don't forget the punitive voting. That some people wouldn't like to vote for X, so they go vote for whatever Y is nominating himself, even without prior knowledge to the background of this nominee, which is very dangerous at the same time. Yes. If I do not like this group of politicians or that political party, then whoever is going to be against them, I'm going to vote for them, without even reconsidering the consequences, the grave consequences behind bringing those people with not whatsoever qualifications, the knowledge of anything, the least knowledge of anything, to the House of Representatives. And those people are going to represent us Egyptians. They are going to legislate the laws. They are going to consider everything for Egypt. And they're going to attain decision-making positions. So how do you see this a very important and dangerous element at the same time? I mean, the democracy and your liberty to nominate yourself and do whatever you want and participate in political life might ruin your country at the same time.
Yes, of course. I agree with you that this point of awareness of the people may be dangerous, but I think after maybe more than now 5 years, we are participating in many constitutional activities and constitutional merits like referendums and elections. We have, as we can say, a minimum rate of awareness and knowledge to pass through these elections. And of course, even nowadays, and after all these experiments, we must admit that the voting process for people may be somehow emotional. Like the face I will like, the people I will prefer. Maybe the public interest is not our first priority in these elections. But on the other hand, we now made a new addendums for this election process, like having an electoral lists. Of course, this will give a certain image or a certain program for political parties or many political parties, like the gathering lists, which contains many political parties. On the other hand, we have some members of the House of Representatives will be appointed by Mr. President, and of course this group will have a very deep and good experience to practice this legislative activity. So according to all these addendums, we must change our standards or our criteria that we use to choose our nominees. Maybe, as you say, we will choose as we like or as we prefer. But on the other hand, we cannot deny the importance of the awareness, and on the other hand, the effective role of youth, as we said before, because they will have the new vision for this electoral process, how to affect by your vote, how to encourage the people to participate. Of course, large amount of participations or large amount of votes will make a very good meaning or a very good presentation for the public opinion of these people. And this is the way by how we will estimate or evaluate the people, or the criteria they choose their representatives upon.
How do you assess the political parties in Egypt? I mean, the course of the maturity of political parties, is it going to the better or it's going backwards?
No doubt that the participation of political party now can be considered as somehow a weak one, because they are all of them newly constructed or newly participated only since the last elections of the House of Representatives. But on the other hand, they are thinking by a very positive way. Firstly, they didn't deny or they didn't neglect any way or any opportunity for participation in elections that they took place, like the elections of Senates and the elections of the House of Representatives now. The second point, they was aware for their very limited participation in this short time, like 4 or 5 years. So they choose to have a gathering lists or some way of alliances by many political parties to give a strong electoral list. This list that I think it was a very new idea in the electoral process here in Egypt, and it was very hard to persuade the people that you will have an electoral list, and choosing this list, that means that you will accept 10 or 15 nominees that you may not know even their names. Of course, this was a very hard experiences, but according to the very good activities and the very hard activities of these political parties, they made a good participation, even by presenting this idea for people and encouraging them to participate according to the different systems now for elections, like the individual one or the electoral list. So I think even it was a very short time, for 4 or 5 years, for political parties to participate in elections, but I think they had a successful impression or successful effect in this electoral process, even by giving new nominees or giving new faces for this parliament, and on the other hand, by changing the way of thinking in our electoral process, adding new lists, make alliances, and of course this will improve their presence in the political life, and of course will give an effective role in the coming elections.
Right. And where do you see youth inside the political parties? Are they there?
Of course they are there. No one can deny this. But on the other hand, we cannot deny the need for experiences. It's really a political life. And this political life needs people with ambitious, people with movements, people with new visions like youth, and of course it needs experience and it needs quality for dealing with problems and dealing with the governmental sector and dealing with the constitutional movement like elections. And of course we must invest the experience in our political life here in Egypt, and of course we have many faces to serve in this field. This is the first point. The second point, according to the participation in the House of Representatives, the main function of this parliamentary body will be to make laws or to issue laws. Law by itself is a very heavy body. Need many discussions, need many reports, need many...
And need political wisdom
yes,
also.
Yes, of course. You need many steps to be
Is political,
issued.
I'm sorry to interfere here, but
Yes.
is political wisdom
Yes,
one
of
of the
course. Yes.
requirements in the law?
Yes.
While I'm assessing someone who is about to nominate himself, He's only, I mean, he is an employee or he's just a citizen, and he or she just it struck their mind that I want to be a parliamentarian. They know nothing about politics or anything, just only the fact that they want to be on billboards in the streets and go and wear the blue collar and be a parliamentarian. So, and have that immunity, political immunity. So aren't any regulations that are enforced to maybe organize this or regulate that?
It's a constitutional right and a duty, and of course participation and large participation from many categories of people, many ages, to be a nominee for the House of Representatives. Of course, this will give a very good atmosphere for the election process. But as I think, we cannot deny that we need some old people, some experienced people, as we are dealing with law. And this law, even when I need a new vision for law, like new topics of law, as we said as we saw in the last years, like the new law of investment, new law of governmental contracts, and even for the new laws of saving and protecting the personal data, dealing with digital relations, having financial inclusion. All of these ideas may be ideas for youth, and this is the addition of youth in this parliamentary body or this House of Representatives. But on the other hand, the process of producing or issuing this law, of course, we need experience, even by drafting these laws, even by issuing these laws, even by discussing these laws in the committees of the parliament. Of course, we cannot deny the role of experienced people and old people, and the quality, as you said, of our representative. But according to this target or this function of the parliament, from the first and from the beginning of election process, we must consider who will serve this target, who will achieve this target, who will participate effectively in producing this law, who will make the role of youth by giving new ideas or by giving new laws to serve this society, and who we will choose to give this House of Representatives its depth and its strength for making these laws and drafting these laws as to be presented or issued. By the way, it will be compatible for the image of the Egyptian parliament and the history and the experience of the Egyptian parliament. Of course, this must be respected, and we will return back to the first point. It's the awareness of the people who will make the vote. And of course, I think we are now having this experience to a very far extent.
Who is responsible for enforcing and empowering the awareness of youth towards the right path? I mean, injecting this awareness towards right political awareness, legislative awareness, and all this. Only some institutions like Tansi'iyya, but we haven't seen any serious ones. I mean, NGOs or other non-governmental bodies that would handle these, because it's a very important issue.
Maybe NGOs or governmental body, as the governmental body will serve the public interest, so it cannot be trended to a certain direction to make political training or to make political awareness or something like this. And even the NGOs, according to its social and maybe service rule in the society, will not be involved to a very great extent in the political issues. But I think it's mainly the role of political parties, as nowadays we have a very great space that will be full according to the participation of political parties. Political parties now have a very great social service, maybe medical service, maybe economic service, and of course it's accepting now new membership for many members from many categories of the society. So I think it is the main role of political parties and one of the main point of participation in the political life here in Egypt to make these sessions and make these trainings, to make this or to transfer this awareness to the people. We are now having many political parties, and not as previous it's an imaginary political parties or have no rule. No, it will have a certain rule and it participate in any elections, and you as youth will have a very rule and a very effective rule with it. So you must transfer this experience and this image to the people, even by the membership in a certain political party, that you are accepting its program or something like this. And on the other hand, when you are participating in voting or in referendum, you must put inside in front of your eyes the public interest or the result of this of your choose or this voting, and how it will serve the whole society. So according to this, I think this is the main role of political party. Even that by this way, you will move the political party. You will give a new idea in the mind of people, how to participate, how to elect, how to make a vote. I think nowadays it will be strange that anyone will enter the committee of voting and will ask, where is my paper and where will I put it after voting, or something like this. I think it will not be suitable for our history or our experience through the constitutional merits through the last years. And of course it will mainly be the role of the political party and its committees, especially controlled or directed by youth.
What's your intake of the political process, the parliamentary elections so far 2020 compared to 2019? So is it much better, or last year was a little bit much more organized and convincing? And I'm talking about the newly happenings. I'm not talking about the old political parties, or the already there strong political parties on the ground. I'm talking about the new happenings. The updates, I mean, the new people who thought of that fashion of nominating whoever might cross their mind, nominate themselves. I mean, is this a good idea? Is this a good sign of political healthy life or political activities, or just a fashion?
The political life cannot be measured like this. It has no stable standards. So it's very ordinary, or it's very natural to notice the same faces or the same participations or even the same political practice in some governorates, in some circuits, in some political parties. But as a whole, we will have a change for dealing with these problems or dealing with these phases. Of course, we have some repeated persons or repeated faces in these elections and even in the previous one. And of course, they still have the acceptance of people and welcoming in elections, and people gave them many votes, and they achieved the membership in the House of Representatives. But on the other hand, by this way, we are giving them a new way to deal with problems, with new vision, with new members in the parliament. And of course, this will put them on another way, totally different from the way they participated before or they had their membership before. This is the first point. The second point, the new faces, besides these old faces, of course, will make a new I can say a new deal with problems, but a new vision. A new vision, because they are now born from two revolutions, 2011 and 2013. Many political participation during these years. A previous 2 or 3 elections they passed through, many referendums, the formation of the constitution. So all of this will give some political awareness for these new faces. They can participate in this House of Representatives. By making the balance between these new and old and experienced faces and these new and experienced also faces, I think it will make a very good presentation for the parliamentary life here in Egypt. And of course, the House of Representatives will achieve its function as it noticed, or as it expected from this legislative body. On the other hand, we have now an addition as the House of Senates, and of course it will make a new, maybe very constitutional and very excellent constitutional procedure by passing any issue or any new law by these Senates. Senates, I think, it's full of experience, as we noticed, even by appointment or even by voting and elections. And of course, this opinion that they will give in any law can be issued by the parliament. I think it will may make an amendment for any mistake or any misunderstand or any comments that can be put by the House of Representatives. I think the House of Senate will amend and will improve the quality of the law that can be issued according to these two councils.
Now, where do you see the problem then?
It's not a problem, as you said. It may be lack of experience. It may be new topics of laws that can be issued in this council.
Like what?
Yes, I think one of the great challenges and this last or the current House of Representatives passed effectively the issuing and the producing of the law of saving the personal data. Of course, this was an aim for very long years to have this law, and of course also the law of electronic signatures. Of course, this helped a lot, especially in these hard circumstances as we are combating
but
like
it's
this
dangerous.
COVID-19.
It's two-sided weapon also.
Of course, but as long as we have a very stable and very collective and very good legal issue like producing this law, I think even if we will face some problems or some defaults in this practice, it will be amended as long as we have the first idea and the first base that we can amend it or add for it a new legislations or regulations after. Yes.
Right. Lately, and after we go through the parliamentary elections and participation in the elections, and if it's a good turnout or a bad, and the results and everything, how do you expect the next House of Representatives to look like? Is it going to be a second version of last year? Is it going to be a totally unexpected with all the new surprises that are popping up every day? So.
Firstly, I think this new House of Representatives, of course, will learn from any problems or mistakes faced by the previous one.
They will learn if they have the experience and the awareness.
Of course.
If they have the sense even. But if they lack the sense, they lack the knowledge, they lack the awareness on the first place, how would they learn?
Not only for the nominees, but I think everyone here in Egypt even noticed or reviewed one of the activities or one of the laws issued by the current House of Representatives, so he can evaluate. So it will be a must that if I am a nominee and I gained a membership in this House of Representatives, of course I must have a very suitable awareness for participating or to having this function. So I didn't think that they will have no experience, but maybe it will be a little experience or a very short one for the short time of practice. But on the other hand, I think being included in this House of Representatives with all these political participation, with some old faces of quality and experience, as we said, this will encourage to gain the experience in a very short time. The second point, this House of Representatives is a very lucky one, because I think it's the first one in the legislative history here in Egypt that will be formed in the existence on already one is current and it's doing its function and producing law and issuing law. So we have now the first step or the first stage of parliamentary elections finished, and we are now preparing ourselves for the second stage. On the other hand, we have already a current representative body which will be held next week and will continue its sessions and continue its function. Of course, you still have, even when you are a nominee now, the opportunity or the chance to notice and review and to take a look for how this representative body will work, and how laws are issued and how discussions are made in the committees of this parliament. So I think they are lucky to have this opportunity, which the previous one didn't have in 2015. They faced a lot of decisions by laws produced by the president. They have a lot of suggestions. They have a lot of projects presented by the government, and of course they had a very heavy load of this legislative work. But this coming House of Representatives, I think they have a very paved road to learn and of course to participate in a better way and in an effective way.
Hopefully, inshallah. How do you assess the participation of youth in the practical life after their graduation? I mean, not only political life, but on practical life. I mean, do you feel that there are enough opportunities for them in practical life to be able to learn and acquire the experience from different fields? Do you see that available nowadays?
It's available, but I think it depends upon the way of thinking of this youth. Of course, we are here in Egypt for a very long time. The first target or the first aim or the first maybe need for any graduate people to have a job or to build his life or to be married or to make his own career. This is the first priorities that they are thinking about and they are going for. On the other hand, new ideas in the society nowadays can appear like having some trainings, approving my language, having some opportunities maybe in voluntary works or NGOs, maybe participating in some conference, maybe sending my CV out the borders for any international functions or international job. And I think that these ideas will have its opportunities to spread all over the youth here in Egypt and to change the thinking of I am now a graduate, so I must have a position in the governmental sector. It's the first and the most secure place to work in. I think we must change this idea because we have already very large amount of opportunities in the private sector, and even outside Egypt you will have another opportunities, but you must gain the experience how to check or how to get these opportunities, how to improve yourself by having many languages, by having maybe masters, higher studies in university field. So according to these new ideas appeared in the society, the way of thinking of youth must be changed. And when these ideas change the minds of these youth, I think even the participation in social, in economic, in political life will change, because they will look for their society during or by a new window, not only for the governmental sector, and all the responsibilities will be loaded on the governmental sector. No, we as people have a role, and we have a very important role to aware ourselves and aware others by the checking or knocking doors, as you say, for any other field that you will have your opportunity at.
On that very encouraging and optimistic note, I'd like to thank you so much, Dr. Motaaz Abu Zaid, and you are Professor of International Law. Thank you so much for coming.
Welcome.
Best of luck. And I guess this brings us to the end of this edition of Windows and Current Affairs. Many thanks to all of you. Until we see you again next week, that's a goodbye.